There are hundreds of different styles of knitted garments, some of which need up to 12 different operations to complete the garment assembly. We shall limit our examples to the main classes of garments and the major garment assembly operations. In this video, we shall look at the assembly or making up of socks, stockings and tights, knitwear, and garments such as leisure wear and dresses made from rolls of knitted fabric. First then, we should do with socks. No cutting to shape is required, only the closing of the toe end.
These are linking machines. Many years ago, all sock toes were linked. Now this method is used only for heavyweight and high-quality socks. Linking consists of placing each loop of a specially knitted course onto the linking points. First, the base of the sock is placed on the points, and then the upper part of the sock is placed on the same points. Despite the apparent ease with which the operator performs this task, this and many other operations require considerable skill and intensive training. The two sets of loops are then sewn together, each loop being joined to the opposite one. Today, many sock toes are closed on special units such as this Rosso machine, which sews the upper and lower part of the sock together without placing individual loops on points. The operative feeds the sock onto the machine, where rotating points carry them forward. Excess fabric is cut off, and sewing, which we have already seen, takes place. The sock is automatically removed from the machine on the right-hand side. This seam is technically satisfactory and comfortable to wear. The system is quicker than traditional linking and requires less operator skill.
The second category consists of ladies' stockings and tights. This sector has perhaps the most highly automated series of assembly operations within the knitting industry. This machine by Autotex is one of a number designed to close the toes of stockings. The stocking is loaded onto the former and it is automatically turned. The former, with the hose pulled forward to a predetermined position, is rotated past the sewing head. The stocking, with its toe closed, is then pulled back onto the former and removed and turned in one operation. This is a two-stage machine by Takatori, which produces tights from a pair of stockings. A pair of stockings is loaded on the machine and clamped together. A knife moves forward and cuts the inside of the two welts. Arms then expand the stocking tops until the cut and clamped edges can be presented to the sewing head. The pair of stockings, now tights, are carried forward to a second workstation where the legs are automatically loaded on a double leg former. In turn, these are rotated past the sewing head to close the toes. Each pair of tights is pulled back on the former and, as on the Autotex machine, removed and turned in one operation.
The Autolink is another special machine that takes stockings that have already had their toes closed, then joins the welts to form the body and inserts a gusset. The addition of the gusset will give increased strength and extension to a critical part of the tights. A section of the original garment is burnt out by a hot wire, and the firmly held tights advance to receive a previously stretched piece of fabric, which is placed to cover the hole, and is then sewn in place. You will notice that stockings and tights are knitted from undyed yarns, and are sent for dyeing after being sewn. We come now to knitwear, our third major category of products. This is a collective term for garments such as sweaters, jumpers and cardigans produced from fabrics knitted on fully fashioned or circular or flat garment length machines. The assembly or making up route for fabrics from fully fashioned and garment length knitting machines usually differs. We shall deal first with the assembly of fabrics from garment length knitting machines.
The garment lengths are first separated by removing the draw threads. Then the fabrics are usually steamed as a first operation before cutting. Steaming straightens out the fabric, reduces curl if present, and presents a neat flat fabric for cutting to take place. Cutting may be done singly or in small numbers using scissors. The blanks are slitted into individual front, back or sleeve sections, then folded and stacked. Using a pattern and dressmaker's chalk, the shape is marked out on the top of each folded pile. The fabric pieces are then cut to shape. And the goods are finally bundled. A more modern alternative is to use a die cutting machine such as the Berebi Simple Cut. This consists of a foam-backed pattern grid into which is placed, in a previously designed position, a pre-shaped steel blade. The garment blanks are folded and placed in the correct position on the grid. The hydraulic head moves forward and presses the garment onto the blade, thus cutting it to the correct shape. The cut garments are stacked at the rear of the machine and can be removed when the desired number have been cut.
Hatra and hosiery equipment have recently produced the Cutmore system for cutting garment blanks. Here the blanks are placed on long pins protruding from a table in the vertical position. This has the advantage of accurate placement, particularly if the blanks are striped or patterned. Since the blanks hang vertically, there is very little interference between layers. On completion of loading, the table is rotated to a horizontal position for cutting, and patterns are placed in position on the fabric. Then clamps are brought automatically into operation. These compress the fabric lays and hold them firm. Cutting is carried out with a specially modified straight knife. This system gives increased productivity and more consistent quality than traditional methods. Knitted garment blanks are usually rectangular, and there is always considerable cutting waste, often up to 30%. Waste fabrics resulting from two different factors are shown here. The upper part has been caused by knitting the blank longer than necessary. Much of this type of knitting waste can be avoided. The lower piece of waste is virtually unavoidable, since it is inherent in the particular garment design.
The cut edges of fabrics from garment length machines tend to unravel, so to sew them together a secure seam is required. This is the Overlock machine, which is the preferred one for this type of fabric. Here, shoulder seams are being sewn together and a tape is being inserted to reduce extension and increase strength. The Overlock not only sews the fabrics together, but also wraps thread around the cut edges, called cover threads. The skill is to produce a seam that results in the correct seam extension and secures the cut edges. Too tight a seam will give rise to a broken sewing thread when the seam is stretched. We will now deal with the fully fashioned knitwear, where the component parts are knitted to shape, where yarn waste is less, and most of the edges of the fabric have proper selvages rather than cut loops.
Linking is used to attach the sleeve head into the body. The operative first places the body parts forming the armhole on the linking points, and then the sleeve head on the same points. Sewing takes place during the positioning of the sleeve head. This operation is a clear example of high skill. Increasingly, however, such techniques are being replaced by simulated linking, similar to the Rosso machine for socks. The cub seam machine